All right, let's talk about Bryce Young for a second. Obviously, very hyped up prospect. I like him a lot. I think he's really good, and I think he deserves the hype. Does he deserve a first overall pick? Well, let's talk about what he does deserve, starting off with this play. This is a good example of the little things he does well. He definitely, it's interesting because, obviously he played in the same system as both Tua and Mac Jones, and you can see some comparisons with those two players, but maybe a little bit more Mac Jones than Tua at times, just with the kind of the NFL level little things Young does. But I think Young's a much better when it comes to pocket presence as either of those other guys. And this is an example where you have a receiver who's going to get into a gap in coverage. That's his job on this play. That's where Young is going to look. Young takes the snap. He looks over in that direction, but it's not open, right? There's a defender who's right in the passing lane. So trying to make this throw, it just wouldn't work. But this is the Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes-esque thing he's going to do right here. And, again, not to get too hyperbolic and say that he's going to be as good as those players, just that this is a play that those guys would also make, where watch what he does to open this up. Watch how he's going to use his legs to just change the throwing angle. Made the angle better. He scrambled out. He didn't have to scramble out. He could have stayed where he was at. He had room, but moving allowed the angle to be easier, and then he was able to make the throw. It's those little things that Bryce Young does and the little subtleties in his game that I think could be the difference in, him being just a good player from him being an elite player at the next level. Going over to something like this is another great play and one that I don't expect NFL quarterbacks to make, let alone college quarterbacks to make, but he's going to make this one where it's zone coverage, and the concept tends to be actually pretty simple, where you're kind of picking on the safety. If the safety stays deep, which they tend to do, then you throw over the middle. Simple enough. If the safety steps in and covers over the middle, then you throw deep. That's typically the read here. Watch how when Young takes the snap, he runs a play action, looks down the field, and you could totally look at this and say, okay, well, the safety is deep, so throw over the middle. Over the middle is open. You have a guaranteed, explosive play right here. Why not take it? Well, look at the safety again, and look at how his hips are completely turned towards the middle of the field. He kind of took a step in as well. So while it's not massive, he has put himself in position where it's going to be really difficult to cover deep down the field. And on top of it, the receiver is, easily beating the corner right here. So for Bryce Young, he's going to think a little bit smarter here. Now, it's a little bit difficult because he doesn't have his hips completely turned at this point, so he's going to have to throw it in a hurry as well, which is another issue. But watch how he turns his hips in a hurry, makes this throw, tad underthrown for sure, and that's definitely a negative you could point to, but he still drew the pass interference penalty, which in the NFL would put the ball at the 1 yard line. So, again, I'm impressed by this play. I think you could argue you got to get that ball a little bit further, and I think that's fair, but, his hips weren't fully turned around. It was kind of a tough throw to make. To me, I like that read, even though he passed up a free explosive, because it kind of shows that he, again, I'm assuming, saw the safety was a bit out of position and took advantage. Maybe he just screwed up and got lucky, but I think that that's what happened, and that's why I'm giving him credit for it. Also, something like this, again, this isn't a major thing. It's something you expect a 10-year vet quarterback to make, but you don't necessarily expect a rookie quarterback, especially a young, college quarterback, I should say, not even rookie quarterback, especially a younger college quarterback. Remember, he's just 21 years old right now, so these little things do impress me. You see the route on the screen. It's a tight end running this route. So, okay, fine. This is his read. Let's see what happens. As you see, Young takes the snap. He looks over in that direction. And at this point, it's not really open, right? Or is it? Is there a way you can make this throw work? Well, watch him throw it to the back shoulder, and that was a catchable ball. It wasn't caught, but it was a catchable ball, and a really good one, I think, by Bryce Young. Again, understanding that it's not just do you throw it to a player or do you not, but it's also, how do you throw it to the player? And can you, find other ways to get that throw in there? Like, can you throw it to a back shoulder instead of just throwing it further deep? You don't see a lot of rookie quarterbacks doing this. You don't see a lot of college quarterbacks doing this, but you saw Young do it consistently, I thought. However, it was not all perfect from Bryce Young. There are some issues. Again, people bring up the height and the weight and all that stuff, but I'm just talking tape right now, and there were some issues on tape this play, you see how the blocking concept is set up. And really the important guy to watch is the center. The center is currently blocking towards his right, which is towards the left of the screen. However, there's number 41 for Texas who is showing a blitz here, which to me shows that the center has to be aware of that. That's how I would want the blocking concept to be, and this is in plenty of ways on the quarterback. The quarterback oftentimes has to tell people, hey, you make sure you block that guy. The quarterback has the power to change this stuff, and in the NFL, you see the quarterbacks doing this. Like, Tom Brady does this. Tom Brady doesn't just hope the center picks it up. Again, not to say that Bryce Young should be Tom Brady, but these are the little things that, oftentimes people will blame offensive linemen for when it's actually the quarterback's fault, or at least the quarterback could have prevented it. And at the very least for Bryce Young, if you aren't going to tell the center to make sure you're blocking towards the left, which again, towards the right side of the screen, you have to at the very least be aware of this situation and have an exit strategy. However, Young takes a snap and doesn't even look in that direction, ends up getting clobbered for a sack right there. And to me, that is on Bryce Young. Again, you could argue it's on the center. We're not in the huddle. We don't know the exact way Alabama runs their offense. But for most teams, it would be on the quarterback to protect himself there, and Young did not. Also, going over here, I think Young is a very good quarterback. I think his arm is very good, but there's times when he thinks it's a little better than it is, and that's going to get him in trouble at the next level. This is an example. You have a receiver running into, a gap in coverage right here, kind of underneath the corner. Watch how when Young takes the snap, he's going to eventually look over there. And it's worth noting he was looking somewhere else first, just now gets over here. But at the same time, he's here, and it's a tough throw, right? Because he's throwing from the hash marks on the top of the screen. And keep in mind, it's college hash marks, so they're wider apart. Has to get it all the way down towards the numbers on the bottom of the screen. And it's, it is 20 yards down the field. And also, of course, you look at the corner, and the corner is reading this play. This is a throw I would not advise Young to make, but the reality is he makes these types of throws a lot in college, but you're not going to make them all the time. As you see, this one results in an interception, and if he does this too much at the next level, those will result in interceptions as well. Have to be more careful of that. Bryce Young, that's a mistake, and one that he just has to learn from. Again, this is what makes evaluating quarterbacks so difficult. It's like, could he learn from that stuff? Absolutely. Will he? I don't think anybody knows for sure. We're all just guessing here and making as educated guesses as we could. I want to go over to this play. A lot has been talked about his mobility in the pocket and all that stuff, and it's true. He is, I think, very good at that stuff. I think that that's something that he deserves credit for. He is a smart runner. He is very good off script. He avoids sacks using his athleticism. I'm not sure if it'll work in the NFL, but I think it would. But there are some issues, and I do think that he will sometimes, again, try to do too much, and this is an example of it. Watch as when this play begins, there's pressure, he gets around the pressure, but then while getting hit, throws one, attempting for a touchdown, ends up being an interception instead. Again, I'm not saying this is something he's doing every game, but just there were some flashes of him doing a bit too much, and these are things he has to kind of, in my opinion, work out of his game if he's going to be a star at the next level. So, is Bryce Young worth a first overall pick? I think yes. I think the upside is worth it. That, in a vacuum, I'm not saying I would pick him over CJ Stroud. I, again, still have not announced who I would pick, but, is he worth a first overall pick just in a vacuum? I would say yes. I have no issue with, whether it's first overall or second overall drafting Bryce Young. But, he's not a perfect prospect. This isn't a, even Trevor Lawrence, I think had some issues people didn't notice and then, fix those issues in his second year. But this isn't an Andrew Luck situation where it's just like, okay, this guy can't miss. But I think he's still a very good prospect. That's kind of how I view it. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.